Okay, what I'm going to try and do in this uh, tutorial is kind of explain a little bit about music theory. I am illiterate when it comes to music theory, but I know enough to be dangerous, and I know enough to teach someone else how to play an instrument. So I'm going to try not to get too deep into it, but I just want to explain some of the principles that I use. And I've been a guitarist performing in bands and on stage for several decades. I've played guitar since I was 5 years old, and that puts it at about 62 years I've been playing guitar. So while I'm not musically literate, I do have a pretty good understanding of music and how to play music and how to make it happen. So take what I have to offer, and if it's good, great. If it's not, go look somewhere else, and keep searching till you find what you need to do the job. So anyway, let's get started. Um, the musical scale. I'm going to use C major because that's the basis of where everything is built from. It's C major. If you look at this chord wheel here that I've constructed, you've got 12 notes. So it's in what I call half steps or semitones, and then there's whole steps. So a half step would be, on a guitar would be 1 fret. On a keyboard it would be the next highest key. So you have C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E. There is no E sharp, it is F, and that's because of what we call intervals. Then we have F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B. So a C major scale is based out of these intervals, and if you look, it goes a whole step to 2, which is a D, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step back to 1. So that interval is how you play a C major scale. If you were going to play a D major scale, you would simply move the numbers around and put 1 on the D. So I've done that. You can see now we have D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D back to, and again it's whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step. So same as the C major. And if you look here, we'll just do one more. We'll use G as the chord. Here's the number 1. So you go whole step, so G, A, B, and then half step to C, and then whole step, whole step, whole step. So C, D, E, F sharp, back to G. So that's a major scale in the key of G. So if you make yourself a chart like this or a wheel, just by moving these numbers around, you can find the major scale in any given key. It's pretty straightforward stuff. Okay, so the other thing that we can look at here, and I'm going to try and pull something over here, so bear with me while I get this accomplished. I'm still a little bit new to a lot of this software, so just by way of explanation, I've gone to a website here, and you can find this website on the internet. It's showing the chords in the key of C minor. So you got C minor, D diminished, E flat major, F minor, G minor, A flat major, and B flat major. So that would be the chords that you would play if you were playing in the key of C minor. And they've also gone ahead and done the sevenths here. Okay. And this site's pretty good as far as getting information for what you might want to be trying to accomplish. But I just used it as a quick reference, so I didn't have to go in and create all the charts. I just thought, well, somebody's already done that. And you can learn how to build a chord and all that. So I'm not going to get into that today, but in the C major scale, it goes from C major to D minor to E minor, to F major, to G major, to A major, no, A minor, and then B diminished. So I could take the time and look that up and show you on this chart. It's on this same website, but I don't want to spend a lot of time going into things that you can do on your own. Just know that that's how it works. You've got a set of chords that belong in a given key. It's actually playing up through the notes of the scale, and you have to change to a minor or major or diminished depending on what chord it is for it to be correct. And you can break the rules. I mean, you don't have to go to a minor on the second chord. It depends on what you're writing. You can break the rules and bend them, and that's how different sounds and different cool arrangements are made. By breaking a few rules, it kind of tweaks the ears. So this is kind of the groundwork for part 2 of this tutorial on how to write a song. It's just establishing that there are chord progressions that are appropriate for a given key, and that information is on the web, so you can go find that information and apply it as you're trying to write a song. I'm just trying to show you how to use it. Okay, so for the sake of what I'm doing today, I've tried to come up with a way to be totally random in my selection of melodies and chord progressions and all that. So I have created just an arbitrary system, and all I've done here, and I'll pull this over so you can see it, is I've taken the letters of the alphabet and counted to 7 up the alphabet. Every time I pass 7, I start over and reset to 1. So A, B, C is right up the scale. G is 7, and H is 1 up the scale. M is 6, N is 7, so forth. So if I take a given name, like John or Mary, I would just go to J, which would be 3, and then I would go to O, which is 1, and then H, which is also 1, so it would be no chord change there, and then N is a 7. So starting on the 1, because that's kind of the way you do it in songwriting, you generally will start on the root key, root chord. So it's 1 3 1 7, 1 3 1 7. If I were going to do the name Mary, I'd do the same. So I've taken the liberty to do that, and this is what I got. This is John, and this is Mary, and this J doesn't belong here as a mistype. So John and Mary, these are 2 chord progressions I'm going to use in the second half of this. This is 1 2 1 7 is a date. It's derived from today's date, and basically, like, January is 1, that's the root. Okay, 18 is 9, which is, if you're counting up 7, 8 would be 1, 9 would be 2. Okay, and so we got 1, 2, and then it goes to 2017. So 2 is the next one. 0 doesn't count because there's no 0. And then you got 1 7 for 17. So 1 2 1 7 is how I came up with that. So there's some order to it, but it's mostly random. So I'm using those conventions, I guess, for want of a better word, in the second half of this tutorial. And I'm just going to build the chords in my favorite DAW, which is Sonar Platinum. I'm building the chords and then using those chords, randomly creating a chord progression, and then randomly putting melodies across that. So when we get to that section, you'll see what I'm talking about. There's a lot of rules in music theory that people follow, and you can follow the rules, and there's standard chord progressions that everybody likes to use, but the truth is, it doesn't matter what your next chord is as long as it's part of the key that you're playing in. And if you are playing instrument, and like the Native American flute, if you're playing A minor flute and over the appropriate key for that flute, any note you play will be musically correct. You cannot make a mistake because the flute is designed with the scale that's appropriate for that key, so you can't make a mistake. It's wrong to say that you can pick up a flute and play anything you want across any chord. That is not true. But if the chords are correct for the flute, it's true. You can play any note you want and it will be musically correct. Some things are going to sound better to you, better to the ear, more pleasant, but musically correct. So when you take mistakes out of the equation, it sets you free for playing the flute. There's no such thing as a mistake. So that's pretty much sets you free to fly as high as you want to go. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and go into my DAW and demonstrate kind of what I've been saying here. I'm going to put it into practical application so you can see it. Okay, I'm in Sonar Platinum. It's my favorite DAW. You can use any one you want. What I've done is taken the information from the charts and I've created the chords of a C major scale. So we have a C, A minor, C sharp minor, D minor, D, E, F sharp minor, and B minor. All right, so ahead of time I've taken the name Mary using the conversion process described earlier, and I've created the chords. So for Mary, the chords come out to be 1, 6, 1, 4, and then I put a 1 at the end to bring it back to closure, resolution. You always come back to the root chord. You don't always have to end on a root chord, but it kind of resolves back. So, and then what I've done is I've taken a synthetic flute sound and I've created a melody here, and I'm going to loop this and let you hear it using the name Mary to create the chord progression. Okay, so I'm using an A minor scale over a C major chord progression, which is the relative minor or relative major, whichever angle you're coming from. These are the notes on the Native American flute without any cross fingering. They are A, C, D, E, G, A. So I've just lined them up with that scale out here. So without listening now, I'm just going to rearrange. So let's put one on C. Let's drop this one to here. Maybe, yeah, let's move that one to the top. Let's move this one next to there. Let's drop this one down to the root. We can leave that one where it is just for giggles. Let's move this one up to here. And we'll just end this one there. Let's see what that sounds like. Okay, so using the same chord progression, That's derived from the letters of the name Mary. I arbitrarily changed the melody and it sounded just fine. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take and make a chord progression from the name John. And we'll just get rid of these here. And ahead of time I've determined that John is 1-3-1-7. So we're going to take the first chord, which we already have. So 1, 2, 3. We'll take the third chord. I'm going to copy it. Put it in the second position. And then 1 is the next chord. And then 7 would be that B diminished. And that would be here. Sorry for the sound there. It's kind of hard to guide a mouse over. And then of course we want to put the 1 for the resolution. And now we're going to keep that same melody. We've totally changed the chord progression, so take a listen. Not the greatest melody, but nothing is clashing, nothing's out of whack. So let's move a few notes around. Let's hear that one. That's not anything to write home about, but it's not bad either. There's nothing musically incorrect there. I mean, it's different, but it works. So I've used random melodies across random chord progressions. So I haven't followed any rules other than stay in the chords of the C major, and I'm using the relative minor flute to play the chords. So I'm going to do one more. This one's based on today's date, January 18, 2017. Any number that's larger than 7, I just start like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 8 would be 1, 9 would be 2, and just right on up. So that's how I derived the numbers for this. It'd be 1, 2, 1, 7. So we'll get rid of these middle chords here. Now go over here and find the 2. Then the 2 is here, so we're going to copy that. And we know that the 1 is here. And then we need the 7. That's the last chord here. It's a B diminished. Sorry for the sound again. Mouse just kind of goes where it wants to sometimes when you're trying to slide these chords over. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 1, 7, 1. That's based on today's date, reduced down. So let's hear it with the melody we just used. doesn't sound too bad. So now let's just pick another random melody here. And I'm just sliding these around, trying to mix and match them. And let's drop this, and let's take this, whoops, let's take this one up to here. Now we've got a random melody again across the same progression we just listened to. Let's change the starting note back to C just for giggles. Let's move it up the scale. Let's move this one up to here. Let's move it up to here. Now just for giggles. Now let's listen. Okay, to sum it up, what we've done here is we've taken totally random chord progressions, applied totally random melodies, following two simple rules. Use the chords that are appropriate for the key, and stay in either the relative minor or major for the key that you're playing in. In this case, I'm using an A minor for like a Native American A minor flute, pentatonic scale, minor pentatonic, and it's across a C major scale. This works for any key you want to do. If you play in the scale for that key that's appropriate, any note you hit will work. It may not be the best sound that you could come up with, but it works musically. And you know, people will say when you start on Native American flute, you can play any note you want and it's fine. That's true as long as the key for the flute is right for the key that is being played. You can play any note you want to across any chord the accompaniment wants to play. So I'm going to go over here now to just the chords, and I'm just going to illustrate the way they sound. So let's just go every other chord in the scale and see how it sounds. Now let's stair step it. We're going to go 1, 3, 2, 4. 1, 3, 2, 4. Now let's just change it from 1, 3, 2, 4 to 1, 3, 2, 5. Now let's just change the 2 to a 4, so 1, 3, 4, 5. All of them sound pretty good. Let's try something. I'm just going to hit some random. Here we go. Let's try another one. So what I'm showing you here is that when you're writing a chord progression, there are people that will tell you there's magic formulas and you do this and follow this with that to do this and accomplish that. And the truth is you can make up any chord progression you want as long as you use the correct chords for the key. And you can even bend those rules if you want to. So, I mean, I'm not knocking music theory by any means, but I'm trying to say here that I've just shown you that it doesn't matter what chord you change to. And you will find out that if you do a random chord selection and play the melody over here that I've created randomly, that it will fit. So songwriting takes all the mystery out of it. You make a chord progression that sounds good to your ears, and then you make a melody that sounds good to your ears. You do not have to have a lot of technical knowledge. Get access to the chords and, write them out on a DAW like I've done here with a MIDI program and make up a chord progression if you don't play guitar. If you've got a guitar player friend or a piano player friend, have them play some chords, make up a progression, make up a melody, and see what you get. It's not that complicated, and as you can see, just about anything works. So here's a C minor, and I'm using the appropriate chords for C minor. You can find these chords listed on the internet. I'm not going to take the time to go through and explain all that, but so let's listen through the C minor. So we got C minor, D diminished, E major, that would be like F minor, G minor, and this would be a, I can't remember now, I'd have to work it out. So here we go. So you can hear it walking this way up through the scale. There's appropriate minors and different chords or modes for each note in the scale. So let's just try some random chord progressions in C minor. Let's try stair-stepping it again. Let's try coming down every other one. So let's try 3 in a row, and then I'll just hit a random one. Let's try stair-stepping starting here. So let's just try some random ones. Here we go. So I just made up a bunch of chord changes there. They all sounded good. You always resolve back to the one. And that's not a hard fast rule either, but somewhere in there you kind of got to establish what key you're actually playing in. If you just play a random series of chords, there's no structure to the song. um, I think every song needs structure. It doesn't have to be. You can break the rules. They're made to be broken. So anyway, that concludes um, my thoughts on writing a song. um, if you hear a melody in your head, or you come up with a melody on your flute, if you can get that recorded, you can go in for the appropriate key, build these chord blocks, and then you can place them across your melody until it sounds good to you. Whatever chord progression you want to use, just plug a chord in. If it sounds good, use it. If it don't, plug a different one in until it sounds like what you hear in your spirit. So with that, if you have any questions, feel free to private message me, and I'll be happy to go into I'll just go into any area I can answer. I'll just do the best I can. But I am not musically literate. Everything that I know, I've been taught by friends, or I've just learned it on my own. With the advent of the internet, it's been a lot easier. But the reality is, the music that I play is based on what I hear and not musical rules. So I'm just trying to share with those that are maybe trying to get started. If you can buy an inexpensive digital keyboard, you can make your own accompaniment tracks. If you learn how to use a DAW, digital audio workstation, you'll find out that it's not that difficult, and pretty soon you're creating your songs. So anyway, if you have questions, get a hold of me. I'll be happy to try and help. Thanks.